Welcome to the InProperty Podcast. I'm your host, Simon Jens, and I'm the founder of ANTLER, the marketing agency for SME house builders. On this podcast, I speak to inspirational people in property. Hit the follow button and be the first to learn about new episodes as soon as they drop. So let's kick things off. Explain your current role to me as though you're explaining it to a 5-year-old.
Right, well, I suppose like I'm explaining it to my son, really, who's 12, but they still don't get it either. But I'm a sales director for Buckland Group, and they are a private family office based in Winchester. They own a lot of other companies, but my specialist section of that company is Welborne Garden Village. So a big village, well, a town really of 6,000 homes, and my responsibility there is responsible for all the build partners we have on site there to knit it all together into a proper sales environment, really.
Excellent.
Hopefully a 3-year-old will be able to explain. It's difficult to explain to someone who knows what they're talking about.
That's cool. Excellent. And so that's a big role.
Yeah.
You know, it's a big project. Locally, it's known. You know, anyone that drives along that M27 is seeing it transform before their eyes.
Yeah.
What was your journey to your role now?
What, from the start?
Yeah.
Wow. Well, I mean, if you go all the way back to school days, I was sent away. My parents were very lucky in the 80s that my grandfather, who was a managing director of Dalgety Spillers, a big company in the city, his wife died, and he lived in a massive house in the country. And he said, well, look, it's been in the family for so many years, and if you don't move here and live in half of the house, then we're going to have to sell it. So my parents said, right, they shipped up in the 80s, sold the house, made quite a bit of money, and moved into this massive house in the country in Oxfordshire. And that gave them the money then to refurbish the house and also to send me and my sister to school. So I got sent to Winchester House School in Brackley, which was a prep school, and then boarding, and then I got sent away to Uppingham in Rutland. But for those that know me, and a lot of people do, that I was a bit of a rebel at school. Not so much a prep school, but when
only
you go
at school.
Only at school. Well, yeah, we'll come on to that. When I got to Uppingham, I think when you're in such a huge public school, 2,000 pupils, and you're not very good at sport and you're not very good academically, you're sort of mid-range, you fall into the cracks, and it's very easy if one of your school sort of mates is drinking, smoking, all that sort of stuff you sort of do at school to break the rules. But so I flunked out of there at 16, actually. I had 5 C's in GCSEs, and my parents were thinking, Christ, we've spent,
so proud.
so proud, all this money, I could see now how they could be frustrated. So they go, oh God, all of this money we've spent, what do we do now? So I ended up actually going to agricultural college in Warwickshire, and actually that was sort of a bit of the making of me. I made a lot of friends from Stratford. I played a lot of rugby, actually, so I made a lot of friends in Stratford-upon-Avon, who I still have as friends today. And that sort of led me down the sort of agricultural path. My parents lived in the countryside, and I always worked on farms during the school holidays, sort of driving tractors and things like that. So I did a first diploma in rural studies, and then I did a national diploma in agriculture, which then I didn't finish. I did a year on that, and then I went to New Zealand and. I flunked out of that. Then I got a job at a butcher's, making the sausages. Yeah, this is.
So you'd reared the pigs, and now you're going to.
And then I got a job working as an oil tank fabricator. Not knowing what I was doing, no sort of idea. And then I went to my parents said, well, why don't you go and work on a farm in New Zealand? And we had a friend who ran a farm in the North Island in New Zealand. So I went out there when I was probably 17, I would say, almost 18. And I worked on a dairy farm out there for 7 or 8 months, which was hard work, up at 4, 2 milkings a day, a different setup to farming in the UK, which I've been dealing with at agricultural college. And then, I had a great time around there, a great time on my dad's credit card when I'd finished the farming. He still, to this day, remembers the sort of can of Coke I got on his credit card in Auckland, that sort of machine. But yeah, so I went around New Zealand after my farming. I went around Australia, and then I came back, and I really didn't have any sort of prospects back then. So, I had no job. I'd only just found out that I'd actually got a 5th C in GCSEs because I'd only got 4 when I left. So I was like, wow, what on earth do you do now? So you sort of haven't got any A-levels, didn't go to university. I've got 5 Cs at GCSEs. But I was very outgoing, and I always got on with a lot of people. And so, my parents suggested to me, we know someone in Lymington called Paul Jackson Auctioneers and Estate Agents back in the day, who are based on Key Hill, that nice little cobbled street as you go down to the quay. So that's where I got my first job in agency there, actually. So
you gave up on the farming dream, that had gone?
Well, I realised there's no money in it.
Okay.
I mean, literally.
So money was the driver.
Well, I mean, I think, as a kid, you have so little money really as a child. And actually, I didn't have any money. I mean, it was £7,500 was my salary back then. I mean, that was when I was 18, 19. So yeah, I'm 47 now. So it wasn't much. And I lived in a room in a family house, all on my own.
Well, in Lymington?
In Lymington, yeah.
Okay.
So in Boulder, East Boulder. So my parents were obviously up in, so my parents had got a car for me. And that's a funny story about that being repossessed, but we can tell that another time, later on. But then I worked there for 6 months, and then they said, right, well, it's only a 6-month job at Paul Jackson Auctioneers and Estate Agents. So I then sent a letter to every single estate agent in the Southampton area, because my friend had a house that he was living in Southampton. He said, you can stay here if you want. And then and obviously the area manager must have received like 20 letters from each of their branches, just from me. So I got quite a few interviews, and I eventually ended up working for General Accident Property Services, which my first manager there was Duncan Thomas. Nice if you're watching, Duncan. But he's gone off to Bristol. But yeah, I started in Charners Ford, where we are today, actually. And that was where I just on the opposite end of Sparks Ellison, if anybody knows where that is. And yeah, I worked there as a junior negotiator. At that time, because I hadn't kept up with the repayments on my car, because I'd got no money really. It was quite a funny story, actually, because the debt collectors turned up at my parents' house in Oxfordshire while my mum had a sort of book club, the big burly guys banging on the door. So they then drove down, blocked the office car park and took my car away. So since that point, I then had to get the bus in every day, the number 1 bus from Bedford Place.
Did you do viewings? Buses to viewings as well,
Well, there was a car in the office that was like a sort of pool car. So I used to do viewings and all that. So yeah, God, I mean, that was so early 20s, really. And then really, I mean, I think from that point, I loved actually working in agency and showing people around houses, doing deals. And soon you build up a network of people that you know, and you get a good patter about it. And I think sales for me was never about selling. It's about getting on with people, really. And I think if you have 3 estate agents to value your house, and then you've got 2 people who are charging a really low fee, but you don't really get on with them. But you've got one guy who's charging probably quite a bit more, but you really like him and you really get on with them. I always thought people deal with people that they like. And that's the same for everything in life.
It's all about relationships.
Yeah,
100%.
yeah. Whether it's a restaurant or whatever, it's always about whether you like going there and you like the person that's involved. Even my local pub, the landlord's changed, and he's a real tricky character. And you go, oh, can I be bothered to actually go there and have another chat with him, about farm shops and things like that. Anyway, well, I progressed through.
It's not Jeremy Clarkson's pub, is it?
No.
It's all about farm shops.
God, yeah. I mean, I progressed through your move, and I left actually, and I moved back home after I went to Charners Ford. Then I went to Southampton, and I just wasn't earning enough money to make it really doable living. So I moved back home and I worked in Bicester, actually. So I worked for an agent out there called Quadrant. And I've got to say, that was quite a baptism of fire. So a properly fierce independent agent. What's very interesting there is every person in that office valued, sold, and for the squash court, you have like the squash ladder, don't you, where you put the little pay. It was like that in the office for your deals. It's when you had a card-based system back then, and then someone would come in at the weekend where your mate who wasn't in that weekend, you go, all right, I'll take that, and then you'd like do it on the floor a little bit, make it look really old, try and change the date, and then in the morning meeting on the money, go, I sold 21 High Street to Mr. Jones. And he came in. They were like, well, that's my guy. I'm like, no, he came in at the weekend. No, he said he never registered before. But there used to be all-out fights in the office. And Nigel, who was the owner of Quadrant, I think he's still around today. He's a big bloke. I remember he was so tall, he couldn't even get his arms in my jacket. He was so big. And he used to have rucks with vendors, and he used to say, right, well, I'll wait outside the office for you then. And he'd move and sit his chair outside the office. And then he'd call them when they wouldn't arrive. So again, that was I can't remember it was very commission driven that, and so you earned a decent amount.
But pretty formative experience for
to learn. I think learning the cutthroat nature of sales, I think, that, and also learning to value, learning to, because what you find quickly with an agent is that people don't know that you don't know. So you might meet someone and go, God, I tell you what, you leave with the impression that you've sort of got your own property portfolio. But back then I was, living with mum and dad. So it's I think it's just about giving the impression to people with sales that you, and actually by that time, you're becoming a bit more of an expert on how things work and the conveyancing process and sales in general and the cutthroat side of it. But then I got poached back by your move actually, and I went to move to Andover. So I've been all over the place, and then I became valuation manager in Andover.
And is it easy to do agency in different locations? Doesn't matter where you put you?
Well, I think it goes back to what I was saying about giving people the impression that you know more about the town than you actually do, because they just presume you know all about Andover, when the market is, and all the streets and areas.
So just blag it, basically.
Yeah, you've got to blag it initially until you learn the area. Fake it till you make it. I think it's the modern iteration of that, isn't it? And then I moved from there, and then I ran the Basingstoke branch for them, and then I've eventually ended up working for Morris Dibben. I ran my first proper management job. I ran their Totton office. And I have to say, I loved it. And it was really great running a team. We were a very successful branch there, actually. We won lots of awards, sold lots of houses, sold lots of new homes as well. And that was back in 2005, 2003 to 2005. And then I met Nick Jordan. So you might know Nick Jordan. He ran Morris Dibben, part of the Countrywide Group upstairs. And I met Simon Beach as well. So Simon Beach was working for Morris Dibben at the time, and he was the person that had originally scouted me for the managerial position at Morris Dibben.
Wow.
So I bumped into him in London Road. I'd known him for quite a long time. We worked together at Austin and Wyatt in Bishop's Waltham a long time ago, just for a short period. And so he said, we've got a manager's position in Tottenham. Why don't you go for it? So I did. And then actually, subsequent to that, when I'd worked there for a while, he was running the new homes team, land new homes team. He said, well, I'm going to Highwood Homes. And he said, why don't you come and work in new homes? Which I did. So I then worked there for Nick Jordan in new homes. Tough. Nick's a great guy, knows lots of people. So that was
your first intro into new homes directly?
My first intro into new homes directly there. And I think, I always like being out of my comfort zone, because it's like doing an appraisal of a site. You don't know anything about the site until you properly look at it in detail. And actually going from knowing nothing to knowing everything I find that incredibly satisfying. And I think when it comes to new homes as well, there's a lot of intricacies when it comes to pricing sites. It's a whole different beast, really, looking at how people buy sites and how much land's worth and pound per square foot rates and doing pricing schedules. And also as well, I think that's the first time that networking begins as well. So I think genuinely in agency, there isn't really a huge amount of networking that goes on. Obviously, people who work for other companies, but you're all competitors. And I think it's only really when you get into that developer sphere that you realise how incredibly important relationships are. And obviously, developers, when you sell land, they obviously want to be your mate because they want to buy land off you.
Developers are quite collaborative, from my experience. It's quite... They share a lot more info. I know the CMA's got involved with a bit of that, but they share. It's quite a friendly industry. They look at other sectors, and it's quite cutthroat. They don't talk to their competitors. Yeah. It's quite a collaborative sector.
Well, I always thought if you're a land guy, you get entertained, and if you're a new homes guy, you entertain, because you want to get the new homes business off the sales directors effectively. But I think ultimately it's about offering the right advice. I've always, wherever possible, tried to give people the right advice, make sure we get the pricing right as well, because it's ever more important with new homes to get the pricing right, because the moment you get the pricing...
shoot yourself in the foot, don't you?
Well, if you get it too high, you're the one that's going to end up selling them. And I think it all depends as well what the valuation has been done for. So, if they go, right, we need a valuation to help us get construction finance, sometimes that's red booked at that level, and then suddenly that becomes the price. And so you're like, well, we did, it is effectively, I know we want to try and get those values, but I think ultimately it's about offering the right advice, creating the right relationships as well. And I've got a huge amount of friends now within the new build sector. But I think where it really next step is when I started working for Savills. So I was basically put in place in Dorset, where Charlotte had left. It was to take Dorset and turn it into something really good. And so it was great. I was working out at Sandbank's office in Camford Cliffs.
And that was just new homes.
New homes, yeah. We support the development team, which was run by Colin Wilkins. Probably know Colin. Who they ran that from Southampton and Wimborne. So I was based in Wimborne too. And I think Savills is a really good case in point of relationships, even more so with relationships. So there's a lot of client entertaining, which I hadn't really done much of at Morris Dibben Countrywide, because there really wasn't the budget for it. And they never saw the benefit of it either. But what I know now, and what a lot of people listening to this will know as well, is that making friends for life and doing business with your business mates, because we've all got different types of our friends. So we've got our actual mates where, they've got all the stories about you, that you've got your business mates who are the people that you do business with and you spend time with, but they're not your sort of, day-to-day friends. And then obviously you've got your colleagues in the office and at work. So, and I think it's like parts of your life. So who's it explained to me the other day that you've got, is it 3 parts of your life? You've got your secret part, you've got your private part, and you've got the public part. So the secret part is stuff that you're never going to tell anybody until you sort of,
Never mix the three.
Never mix the three, But no, Savills was great actually for me because it put you on a sort of world stage.
Yeah,
you were obviously very proud of the brand as well. Yeah. It's a great brand. You're going up to London quite a lot. Your clients are keen to buy land, even more so. They sold a lot of land. And of course, off the back of that, there's always the unwritten rule that you get the developments back. But I'd say off the back of that we got a lot of good developments. We were selling a lot at the time, creating a big contact network down there as well. It was great actually, and travelling across Dorset in the summer and all that whole area is absolutely beautiful to work in. I think from that point of view, that really was the making of me, I think, as a new homes person in terms of dealing with the whole networking side of the business, the professional side of the business, having a big head office in London, knowing how that structure works on a proper... Because Savills really isn't like a corporate business. It's like a sort of, it's got the name above the door, but it's a bit like a cottage industry where you've got so many different little business streams, all with their own P&L, obviously coming up to the main banner. And I think a lot of it was non-transactional as well. So I think over 50% of their business was non-transactional at the time. So effectively a bit recession-proof as well. So that got better and better. I got promoted. I joined there as an associate. I got promoted to an associate director. It was all going really, really well. And then suddenly I was made redundant from that role. And
how did that feel?
Well, I have to say, I cried actually in the car on the way back. It was so out of the blue when you think you're doing quite a good job. But that is just the nature of the beast, really. When there's a diktat from central office that we're cutting up costs, what I realise now with Savills, if you're on the periphery, so if you're not in a Wimborne or you're not in a Southampton or you're not in London, then they always retract from the edges. So those are where can we? All right, George, he's quite a big earner. We could probably get rid of him. And so it was devastating, really. So you work your way up to that level, but then actually in rode Rob Mott to the rescue, really, because he was my boss originally at General. Well, Duncan Thomas was my boss, but he was Duncan's boss, the area manager for GA, so he said, look, I've got a job in Land New Homes for you. Based out of Chandler's Ford for Charlton. At that time, it was, I think when I joined, it was 5 branches, and when I left, it was 16. So it really expanded over the 7 years I was there, but. Rob was great because I think when you work for a business owner, that they just want you to do as best as you can because it's great for them. And there's no management.
Yeah, very different to a corporate like Savills, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think potentially my ex-boss at Savills maybe felt threatened by the fact that you knew so many people. You'll never know the full story. But I think ultimately, when you work for an independent business, they want you to do... they want you to do as much as you possibly can. And actually, in a short space of time, when I joined, Fiona Light, who's great, she was my boss, and then I became her boss. So tricky times that was. And it's tricky for you personally as well, dealing with that type of, suddenly you're swapping roles. But then I think at one point we were selling 45 separate developments, doing a good amount of business per month. But then again, selling new homes through the branches as well. So that's how you get the buy-in of these teams, the estate agents, is, I think we mentioned earlier, not just about understanding new homes. That is part of it, but they're all selling houses, so they know about selling houses. But it's making sure that they get the whole income and they're paid on it in terms of commission fully, and then just whack on a big old extra, developer incentive. We'll give you an extra £1,000 if you sell a new home through that development. So that was a real success for us. Plus, a lot of it, we had a big advisory piece as well, making sure that people knew exactly what their sites were worth, and we created a huge amount of contacts there. And actually, that's when my sort of journey to Welborne and Buckland started. I'd been advising on pricing with John Beresford for quite some time actually, and I knew that in due course there was a sort of position going to be there for that type of sales role, albeit I didn't know what it was at the time. But it came about very quickly last year, actually. They said, we need a sales director to come and help us on site, and contract landed and hand my notes in the next day. And it was quick as that, really. And I think it was quite shocking from my point of view, because I never expected to leave Charters that quickly. And I think there was a bigger role that was going to materialise at some point, about looking after a bigger patch. And obviously we had lots of clients who were dealing with, so you're like, oh my God, I don't want to let them all down. But then suddenly you walk through the door to become effectively a developer, working for a private family office, who aren't developers. They are just so, and really we're writing a new book when it comes to selling a site like Welborne. So we're not following a common denominator of how you wouldn't commercially build a site like Welborne like we're doing it, because...
So talk to me about Welborne then. Explain, so for anyone that is listening to this and doesn't know what Welborne is and what your role there is as sales director and as Buckland.
Yeah, I mean, Buckland are a family, so we're investing our private funds into many businesses, about 40 separate businesses we own at the moment, from rail to medical. But Welborne is a big one, and Welborne's important because it sits on the western edge of the Southwark estate. So the Southwark estate goes all the way out to Waterlooville and is owned by the Thistlethwaite family. Mark Thistlethwaite is the chairman of Buckland. So all that land that we have here, I mean, 20 years ago, the Fareham Borough Council said, we are going to, we want to put this housing into the local plan for, to add to our local plan effectively. And at that time, they're like, I don't think we want to do that actually. And at that point, the council were right, well, we're going to CPO it then, if that's the sort of stance you're going to take. So it was very quickly a turnabout that, well, actually, we'll go and make a fantastic development there. So fast forward 20 years, we've had Ben Pentreath, who is the architect behind Poundbury and Nance Leder and lots of other high quality schemes. So Welborne, it's called Welborne Garden Village, is its full name, and it's design-led, sustainability-led. So when you go there, and if you look it up, welborne.co.uk, it's a bit of a plug. Yeah, a bit of a plug there. But it's fantastic when you get there, and I think. There's that stat out there at the moment that 90% of new build is built by about 10 developers at the moment. So we're capturing a lot of people who have always said that I'd never buy a new home, but they come up to Welborne, and I encourage anybody to come up to look at the design. I'm happy to give people a personal tour, but it's like you wouldn't believe, really. We're building an old new town. We're building a big village centre. Your internet speeds there are 1,000 megabyte to 3,000 megabyte. You've got a district ground source heat system, so this liquid arrives at your house at between 10 and 12 degrees. Our houses do heating and cooling, so it comes to your house at that temperature, summer and winter. So in the summer, when it's 25 degrees outside, you've got cool air blowing into your bedrooms. So there's lots that we're doing well, and also as well, every house has an estate charge up there. So it's really important to understand that when it comes to verges, the council don't like adopting the verge when it's got a tree on it, albeit you want more trees. So we've taken those verges, we've taken the communal areas. The council have got the blacktop road surface, and then we are looking after everything else. But a big 4-bed detached house, which looks Georgian, 1,650 square feet with double garage, nice garden. They'll pay about £800 a year. So it's
and your grass will get cut,
and your hedge in front of your house, and the grass. And actually, we've got the Welborne Garden Village Trust that looks after that, and they are going to be based on site. So you're not going to have a faceless, uncontactable management company there. You're going to have someone who is based on site. You can walk in and see them and say, look, that needs sorting out, etc.
So 6,000 homes. obviously there's a massive number. When will it be complete? What's the timescale?
Well, 20 years, so it puts me in line for my 67-year-old.
Gold watch at the end.
Ready for my pension, yeah. I'm not sure about the gold watch, but no, well, we're building it in phases is the key thing. So I think the key thing is that obviously the motorway junction, so we've shut the motorway at Christmas for 10 days, and it's important to note that the motorway was funded by us, by Buckland. So I think you look at it and think, oh, well, Fareham Borough Council have paid for that. But no, it's all been privately funded. And actually, I think that's partly down to the time frame of the scheme, because we're going to be open late summer there, from only starting the box slide, well, at Christmas, sliding a huge 9,000-ton concrete box into place, which is very rarely done in England. I mean, it was quite a project.
It was amazing to watch. I drove past every day and saw layer by layer.
Yeah, I mean, it's just incredible how that really has, and that's private civil engineering that funded by us. So what it means is that it gets done quicker, and so we'll have that all points junction in with the A32 by end of summer, so that's going to make it much easier.
Take over responsibility for the resurfacing of the motorway as well.
God, I don't know what's going on.
Get that done a bit quicker.
I drive down that road. I live in the New Forest, so I mean, I drive down that road every day, and it just seems to be taking forever, doesn't it?
And then you slide your bit in, job done.
Well, yeah, that's going to take 10 minutes off my journey at a minimum, I would say. So yeah, I can't wait. But no, so I mean, that once that's in, that opens up the business park at the bottom of Welborne for us. So no doubt we'll sell that in due course, I would have thought, which will pay us back some money. But phase one, we've got the consent for, which is about 600 homes up there. So that's what we're building, designing at the moment, and we've just instructed Thacum to do a design and build contract on the village centre for us as well. So that's going to include a big 14-bed hotel. But one thing I've learnt with Buckland is that we don't do things by halves, really, and I think that's John and Mark Thistlethwaite's ideology, is that we've got to have absolute excellence when it comes to building. We're building a product that is second to none, that looks incredible as well. And actually, when people get there, Mark is always, the quality, quality stock always rises to the top. And I think that is no more apparent than there, really. So we're building a very nice looking house, which is eco-friendly, with some rules which make sure the development's going to look nice for a long time. Obviously, because we put the motorway junction in, we've managed to viability off a bit of affordable. So in phase one, we've got 10% affordable, so about 70 units. But overall, it would probably be about 30% across the whole period of the site. But then, we're on phase one, so we've got 10 phases to go.
And how do you find it? Obviously, a site of that size, the community infrastructure will come in as you go along. I guess for a lot of the people that are committing to buy now or reserve now, you're selling a pipe dream. Is that easy? Are people bought into the vision? Like how? Well,
I mean, that's a very good question, actually, because you are effectively asking people to take a punt on what it's going to be like.
And trust that you're going to deliver.
And I think when it comes to value as well, they're expensive houses. But they're expensive for a reason, because we're building a place that is going to be nice to live. But you're exactly right to ask that, because we went to Alresford to have a look at the Taylor Wimpey development there, Alresford Down. And what was encouraging for us there, for a volume house builder product, the values they were achieving, we thought were pretty good, actually, for the product that is off the back of a national developer. But obviously that's on the back of Alresford being established in value. Yeah. But when you look at where Welborne is, which was effectively a field 2 years ago, you've got Knoll Village, which doesn't make it stack up, and then you've got Wickham just north, which is a lovely market town. But what we're effectively creating is a new Wickham / Alresford / Bishop's Waltham with our village centre. It's going to have 20 commercial units there. Our new head office, as I said, it's going to have a new doctor's surgery there. So that's the first doctor's surgery in England for 10 years, that is. Because actually, majority of doctor's surgery, they combine forces and they create a super surgery. So this is going to be the first one for a long time. So we've got that agreement in place already. And we've started building it already. So it's giving people everything we're doing so far. When you come up there, it's manicured, the design is fantastic. When you come into the Welcome Centre, we've spent a lot of money to show people what it's like. We've got amazing CGI fly-throughs. We're starting to build the village centre already. We can't stop. We've got a school coming, a cricket club. We've got a big rackets club that's coming, which will have tennis.
You can have paddle.
Paddle.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah, all everything you can imagine. So this phase one is probably the most important phase of the scheme because we're setting the tone for the rest of the development. And I've got to say, we're over £500 a foot net on our sales so far, and we've only got about 15 sales.
And to put that into context, what's the average for the area?
Well, Bewley's scheme in Wickham was probably netted out towards the end because you start off high, you end up low, and you try and get rid of the last. So it's probably $425 a foot.
Okay, so
Bewley's
significantly.
Scheme. I think Crowdace are going to be doing the second phase of their scheme in Wickham. It's going to be about $450 to $460 a foot. I would have thought that.
And the good thing is, that impacts positively on everyone else's prices, isn't it? There's such a Well, you've got two halves. You've got people that love new build and the people that don't, and people don't realise the impact that new build has on your house price. It pushes up everyone's price.
Well, I think from our point of view, when you build a development like Welborne, we're not a smash and grab developer because we're going to be involved for 20 years, plus with the Garden Village Trust, is that you're providing actually some assets there for the community. So what's very interesting that because we're responsible for the community, we've actually put in a really nice playground for the kids there on our first green area, which, God, if I was a child, I would love to. Great things to hoist up sand and all sorts. But you find people come and visit it from way outside the area. People come from Wickham, Fareham, and it's so much so it's causing a bit of an issue with parking because we're like, wow, we hadn't really anticipated. We were like, this is for the residents, but we've got one family that's bought so far. So people have come from miles around to come and visit this playground. So much so we've decided to open a cafe on site in lieu of the village centre. So where there's a big block of flats opposite the welcome centre there, we're taking a ground floor apartment, temporary Class E use. We're creating a really nice cafe so you better dump your kids at the playground and go and have a nice coffee and 1,000 megabyte internet speed. So
what a great marketing tool. So up at just up the road actually, Borden, White Hill.
Oh yeah, I've seen those. The ones that Savills are selling,
I should know it.
Yeah,
White Hill and Borden.
Yeah.
Up there. And what was fascinating there is they built all the infrastructure first. So they call the shed up there.
Yeah.
And as you're finding, they found that if they put that in there as a hub, the community...
Have you been to the shed? Have you been there?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been there. I quite enjoy my visits there.
But the benefit of there is it pulls people in. They then, it's a marketing tool, isn't it?
Yeah.
You'll probably find that with the playground and the cafe. People think, I'd love to live here, have this on my doorstep. And you're starting to paint a picture of...
Well, I think for us as well, it's green space as well. So 50% of Welborne is green space. There's 12 miles of cycle routes there on site. So we've already opened a lot to the north of Welborne. It's a huge ancient woodland called Dashwood, which we've already opened up to the public. So any member of the public can use that. It's got walks all around it.
Previously private.
Previously private. Then you've got a big car park there that people can come. We've got a horse box car park, which people can book in with the Welcome Centre. You can also walk to what we'll call the Welborne Mile, walk all the way down to the motorway. That's a footpath that's been opened up as well. So you've got extensive walking routes already throughout the site. Plus, even when you look at Dashwood, which is one of the main roads leading up to the village centre, you've got a footpath, a cycleway and a road. Footpath, cycleway, road. So we're separating all elements of traffic into individual sections. So from our point of view, it's creating an Alresford, but in a modern environment. So you've got bigger highways, more cycleways, better infrastructure, ground source heat pumps, solar on the roofs where needed, lots of green space. And I think from our point of view, you've got very easy access onto the motorway as well. Because I look at places like North Whiteley, I look at Hedge End, and I look at how long it takes to get on the motorway from a new development there. And Whiteley still, it's a bit like the M27, isn't it? Where you've got the roadworks still sort of ongoing. Yeah. And I think I can see why everybody's sick to the back teeth of roadworks. Yeah. That Hedge End junction is a nightmare with the lane they've got closed there. And so it can take you up to half an hour to get on the motorway. Where at Welborne, you're going to be 4 minutes, if that, amazing. Onto the motorway. So it's about connectivity. It's about every aspect of a development, but also as well, it's the legacy for Mark Thistlethwaite. It's his project, helped by all of us, of course, at Buckland and our developer clients. But it's his vision that has got us to where we are. And I have to say, you've got to have nerves of steel to do what we're doing. And not worry about it because we're spending a huge amount of money. But we know the big difference here is we're the landowner. So we've not had to buy the land, we own the land already. So doing deals and getting capital receipts in, when you look at that long-term vision, and that's what Buckland as a family office is good at, it's that long-term vision that we have with all of the businesses that we own, from medical businesses to rail businesses, is that we at Buckland Rail have just won a large 25 million quid contract for building, I think it's railway carriages. Our Cuvara medical business that makes precision medical instruments, and they bought that off, I want to say, Beth Dickinson, which is an American fund. But there are so many different aspects of that business that bring in the money for us, really.
And it's Welborne. So it's interesting to say from a landowner point of view, because your traditional development, you've got your developer, you've got a landowner on the other side of them, and you don't have the flexibility that you do if you're the master developer. And
I think sometimes it's taken a while, actually, I think, to get everybody into the thinking that we are the master developer, and then you've got George Long, ex-estate agent, come along saying that this is how we should do it. It's not quite like that. We have a very much a committee decision style meeting space there, and effectively they are our construction partners. If you look at it from the way the deal is set up, is that we fund the build ourselves. So we give them all a section of cash to build their sections of the scheme. We don't give them their total build cost, we give them a proportion of it. And then obviously sales pay back into that JV, and that's what funds the scheme. So they're not putting any of their own money into the actual scheme themselves. They're buying the land on a coupon, so they'll pay us back in due course. And then we pay for all of their sales and marketing as well, including their staffing. So we needed developers on board who could accept our vision for what we were trying to build. You've got us managing the build, so we've got a whole build team as if we were a developer, making sure that it's being built correctly. And that's my job as a sales director, to make sure it's being sold correctly as well. That what we don't want is someone to come to Welborne, go to CG Fry, not go to Pie when they could have bought there. We want someone to see everything, because we don't care where they buy at Welborne. We just want them to buy at Welborne. So there's no horse trade. I remember at Borley Park when they had all the Linden, but all those people there that you go from one sales office to the other. Well, they said they were going to give me a fridge, and they said they were going to turf the garden, and absolute disaster.
Just a bun fight.
So they've all got relatively similar specifications. We won't accept any of that sort of horse trading on site, but we just want people to buy there, really. So
did you fix the prices as well then?
Yeah, so we fix the prices as well. Yeah, so they have to sell them for the price. We approve all the offers.
What a great way to sell it. It's like how if you go to buy a used car now, there's no negotiation. The price is the price. And I've always thought in property, price it and stand by it.
Yeah, I think when you're trying to create. So it's so easy to drop your pants when it comes to price, to get some sales, and come on, let's just drop them. And the guys at Buckland will be watching this game. Well, you're the one that's trying to get offers accepted. I know that, because I'm just in sales.
Also, when you've got 6,000 homes to sell, if you drop your pants on the first one, you've got 6,000 others you've got to justify off the back of, haven't you? So
and I think you want to keep the prices high, because, and I always look at the restaurant analogy, that really, if you opened a really fantastic restaurant in Wickham, which did, like a Pulpa Negro in Alresford in Wickham, people come because they love the food. When did you last look at the price of anything on a restaurant menu when you knew you were going to have to go to an expensive meal? You just know it's going to cost 150 to 250 quid if it's two of you going for an all-out meal. Somewhere like Limewood, you just know it's going to cost a lot. So, but you don't go there because you want a cheap meal. You go there because you want a really excellent meal. And I think that's the same for Welborne. We want people to come there because they want an excellent new build house. They want excellent sustainability credit, and they want to be part of a sort of a big community for us. So, but it's a bit like the housing market, that 50% of all houses that are on the market at the moment have been taken off, having not sold. So, using that restaurant analogy again, that if you had 50% of your diners sending back the food, you'd think Christ is a real problem. Yeah. So, I think part of the problem at the moment is not just about. It's about the housing market in general, really. For us, we're finding that it's a needs-based market at the moment. I think people are moving less. I think where you used to have your first home to your last home, it used to be like 4 moves. It's probably 2 now. And stamp duty is the big killer for everybody. Where house prices have increased so much, to move up from your £600,000 or £700,000 house, think, all right, let's go for the big one. It's costing a lot. £200,000 mortgage additional is a lot of money per month. And I think a lot of people are thinking, do I really want that at my age, which is predominantly our age?
We were looking to move. The stamp duty was, I just don't want to spend that much money.
60 to 80 quid, because we used to roll up that equity into your next purchase and your next, so you would end up with a very small mortgage, which you'd then end up paying off. And I think now it's just wage growth hasn't matched house price growth, so that gap is widening. So people are going to be staying at home for longer. So What I find very interesting is there doesn't seem to be any smoke on the horizon when it comes to the government.
What would you like to see if you could have anything?
Oh my God. Well, if I could have anything, half % interest rate. I mean, when we came out of COVID, you could see that was a fast performing market.
Yeah.
You had 0.5% interest rate, you had a stamp duty holiday up to 500, and then you had Help to Buy. So that created an absolute monster. Do you remember that?
Absolutely.
And of course, when interest rates start going up, people, even this year, it's not like 1.5 million people coming out of their 1% mortgage rate. So they're going to be really hurting. And it just reflects on everything else, though. Less people going out, less people eating in restaurants. But
interestingly, though, after that COVID period, prices were massively overheating, weren't they?
Yeah.
And is that because there was a cliff edge and everyone thought, well, if I don't, there was everything was weird post-COVID.
Yeah, and you always get a cliff, and you've always noticed that in the stats, the transactional stats, you always get a peak before the end of a stamp duty holiday. But I think I wouldn't say it's pricing get overheated. It's just that supply and demand market. When you've got less of something, it costs more to get it. And I think it's when there's a shortage of housing
Everyone wanted to live in the country, didn't they? It was a relocation.
When it's a seller's market, and who's responsible for pricing? Estate agents. So I can blame estate agents now. I'm a developer, it's just natural human behaviour. You sell one high street for 500, and you sell it in a day, and then 5 doors down, number 5, they go, do you reckon we better get 525? We go, well, let's put it on and see.
Yeah.
You put it on, it sells in a day at 525. Then the next one goes, let's 550. Yeah, it sells in a day. And that's sort of, so it's that whole supply and demand market. And obviously prices go down when there's too much supply, which at the moment, I mean, last year was very acute when it came to supply. And people were saying to me, why are we not getting any viewings, even though we're reducing the price? And that is because when you're a buyer and you're looking to buy between 400 and 600, let's say, you're going to get 50 sets of details with the supply. So no one's got time in this day and age to view 50 properties. So they go, well, let's pick our best 10, probably pick their best 5, and then they go and view it. So there are properties that aren't even being viewed, and that's why viewing levels have been down, because the great big amount of stock in the market. But I saw that did drop off a lot before Christmas, actually. And we've started this year with a much better. I mean, bear in mind, we've had 330 people up to Welborne this year so far, individual visitors. So it's been surprising from our point of view, but we've gone back to traditional marketing in a funny sort of way. So we've just done a Royal Mail door drop across some really high value postcodes. And one thing what we realise is that people don't pick up the phone like they used to. WhatsApp's become very important for us. We've got an AI WhatsApp product which works really well for us. And people can book an appointment at Welborne without speaking to anybody. It's like you're booking a restaurant on Open Table. Yeah. You just put 12:30, and if the time's free in the diary, it'll sync the diary with its Acuity scheduling. I think it's called. But that suddenly we've done that. We're advertising on the trains. We've got. So where else are we advertising? All over the place, but with AI, with Rightmove. So suddenly you've got 52 booked appointments for your launch weekend at the end of April.
And so we were discussing this before we started recording, and I think the really interesting part is that if you take your typical 50, 100 unit development, let's say, you can't afford to spend that much money. You haven't got the budgets for trains or mass mail drops.
Yeah.
But for Welborne, you've got a really unique opportunity where, you'll be selling homes there for the next 20 years.
Yeah.
You've got bigger budgets. You have to do those things to generate awareness, because at the moment you're selling a dream as well.
Yeah.
And it's a really interesting case study because, certainly in our world, the marketing spend is scrutinised heavily because the budget isn't as large. But the traditional forms, if you've got the budget, it's interesting to hear.
Well, like we said earlier, it's when the tough gets going, or when the going gets tough, the tough get gearing.
Yeah.
We find you've got to invest more in marketing, not less when the market's tough. But also,
can I take you around with me?
Yeah.
And put you in front of my clients.
But I mean, for us, we have a percentage of the GDV as our marketing budget, so it's quite significant. But what you realise is you need that. Because Welborne, you're creating something that was a field 2 years ago. So
can you tell me what percentage that is?
No, I can't. I'm afraid no. But it's a decent amount. Yeah. But it's like opening a Michelin-star restaurant in the middle of Wales. It takes a long time for people to hear about it. It takes a lot of people to come and visit because they think it's just another development. But you've got to stick at it for years, really, to get that level of exposure. So you're going to see us on that bus route. It goes from Fareham all the way up to Winchester, because that goes right past Welborne. You'll see us all over Facebook, Instagram. But I think it's not just, some people think, oh, well, it's just digital marketing. And I think the general perception is digital marketing is the only thing that works nowadays. Well, I would say I don't think that's right. I think it's a combination of everything. So if it's that in-home marketing, so that flyer we've had delivered has had a huge response across. So I've got people sending me texts every day going, oh, I just got this through my mail. And it's nice to see Royal Mail are delivering. And you saw the news today, didn't you? So they are actually delivering things, yeah. But that combined with all different elements of it, really, it really, really helps us. Plus having this AI chatbot where it can interrogate the entire development for us and be very helpful. And people can book an appointment through the AI chatbot. And that's the key thing for us.
And how have you found, obviously, your poacher turned gamekeeper? Is that the right way around? Gamekeeper turned poacher. Have you found the move from estate agency to client side? Because a lot of sales and marketing directors are ex-estate agents.
Yeah.
Have you found that? What are the key differences?
There's less pressure, but it's a different kind of pressure, I think is the answer. I think in agency, it's tight margins. You've got to sell a lot of houses to make a profit. And I'm very proud of when I was at Charters. We sold a lot of houses. We're market leader for new homes, certainly, I would say. But that's at the expense of a lot of hard work, a lot of stress, daily stress. And I think I've gone from looking after 45 separate developments and all the developers and associated research and pricing and all that stuff you do every month to looking after one development. But actually, you can make that into your life's work effectively. So you can take everything you've learned and actually, moving there, that I'm probably one of the only people at Buckland who specialises in sales, I would say. We've got Karen, who also is our marketing director. She's fantastic. She's got a really good eye for detail. So when you walk into the Welcome Centre, it smells different. Just from the smell and they won't accept anything but the best. So when you walk in there, it's absolutely fantastic. So from the garden as well in the Welcome Centre, it's been designed to an inch of its life, all the manicured fields. But I think going back to your original question, it's chalk and cheese. But also, don't forget that I was dealing with land and new homes already, so I knew the whole basis of how a development works, how to sell a development, how to do all the marketing. So it's only a case I'm just working for, normally you'd be selling about 5 or 6 different sites as a sales director, but I've just got one, but it's a long-term project. But it's making sure that it's being run right, making sure that everybody is being seen and we're not missing out anybody on a day-to-day basis. So it's a different kind of pressure and there's a huge amount of money involved, a lot of pressure to get it right, a lot of pressure to get the values is different from obviously a lot of pressure to get sales when I was at Charters and also instructions as well, new homes instructions.
Yeah.
So.
And now you're on the developer side, you see it through a different lens, perhaps to an estate agent. Is there anything that you've learned or realised now on the development side that you perhaps didn't know or wish you'd known as an estate agent?
What I find really interesting actually is I've had very few phone calls from estate agents.
Okay.
Saying
that's fascinating.
Yeah, pushing, getting business from me. I mean,
right.
I was
now your phone's going to be off the hook.
I hope so. Yeah, but I mean, I always had a great chasing system. I always had a 1 to 31 system, whichever way. Do you know what a 1 to 31 system is? So that was the original. You'd have a filing cabinet with 31 folders in it, all 1 to 31. And then you'd have 12 behind that with January, February, March to December. And so that if you spoke to someone on the 2nd, every day you pull out the 2nd, and then you put it back in for the 8th, and then you pull out the 8th on that day.
What, and you use that up to...
No, but then obviously you've now got Outlook and then you've got to-do lists.
Still sitting there with your phone.
But it's that muscle memory of using that chasing up system. So I never not called anybody. Yeah. I was always texting, calling. They're like, bloody hell, George, just call me again, for God's sake. Well, all right, come to development, let's have a chat. But I found that no one's really sort of chased me. Maybe they think we're not selling it, and maybe it's Thacum and Pie and Fry. And actually, I did meet an agent at the Southampton Property Association networking event, and he said, I've spoken to Pie Homes, hoping we're going to get that. I said, well, no, we appoint the agent. So he's like, oh God, I'll have to come up, But I still never had a call. So I think, if I was, I would have been chasing me if I was me.
And are you using an estate agent?
Not yet. We will be, though, in due course. But we're just going to row our own boat. I mean, I think where you can do a lot of advertising and get we've got a professionals launch on the 16th of April, which you're very welcome to come, 5 till 7. And that we've already got 150 people coming to that. People are very interested. You find there's no one that's come to site that's gone, this is crap. They've all come to site and gone, oh my God, I love it here. And we've not really had many bad reviews at all. We've had the odd couple, but that's mainly from the road network that we'll be mucking up for everybody. But that's going to be a huge asset in the future for everybody. So yeah, I think it's really it's going the right way for us. Yeah.
And so obviously you were planning to become a farmer. If property hadn't worked out, if your next car got repossessed and you thought, screw this, where do you think you'd have ended up?
I can't even have my car repossessed. Yeah. Do you know what? I always loved acting at school. And it was funny, I was thinking about this question actually, because I think the most dangerous people are the people who've got nothing to lose, where it doesn't matter what they do because they've got nothing anyway. But I always loved acting at school. I loved being in plays. And I always thought I would become an actor after that.
That's cool.
But also as well, I love music. I do irregular DJing gigs from time to time.
Where's your next gig?
It's 28th this Saturday, actually. Yeah. So down in Poole, but it's a real nice late night slot. House music only. But that's a real passion of mine. So that's my passion, music. Yeah. So acting or music or something like that would have been really a bit of fun.
Okay,
actually.
Cool. And then on your journey, so what's the single biggest challenge that you've faced? What would you say? I know you've had a few.
Well, I think it's been taken seriously, actually.
Okay. In what respect?
I think when I came out of school, when you come out of school. Having been a rebel, you've always been in trouble. Your parents are always picking you up. You're being suspended.
So you really were a terror.
Yeah, I was a bit of a terror actually. And the great thing is at the school I was at Uppingham is that I got a fine every time I was caught smoking. It was doubled every time, but it started off at 50 quid. So you imagine that 8 times.
Wow.
My parents were like, well, we're not stop paying it. We'll stop paying it anymore.
Stop going to school. Or...
Yeah, so 100, 200, 400, 800. Back in the 90s, I mean, that was late 80s, early 90s. That's a lot of cash.
Amazing.
So, but I think you come out of school having been because when you're a difficult child, which I was. I think you come out of school immature. You've had no real when you're sent away to boarding school, you don't really have a father figure there, I suppose, at school. From those schools, someone saying, look, George, actually, this is the right way to do it. It's always just in trouble. You go into detention. You come into the working world and I still muck around now. I'm probably still a bit inappropriate at times, but we have fun about it, and it's part of your persona. I think that you get on with everybody and you have a great time in the office, and you're real fun to be around, and that's the sort of people I like hanging around with. All my friends are like that, but it took a long time for you to be taken seriously, really. So, and I think wherever possible, I was very lucky. I left school with 5 GCSEs, with no A levels and no university, which is very rare. But due to the school system and my parents, I managed to scupper it. And what I find really interesting is that when I'm at charters, when I met 16, 17-year-olds just come out, they're very. It reminded me a little bit of they don't know very much, and I find it. That you've got to try and improve yourself wherever possible, because like writing a letter, it's just general etiquette, how to hold yourself. Half of the battle is being confident, and I think coming out. Going back to your original question, I think I wish I'd been more mature sooner, really, than mucking
It's
about.
interesting, because I suppose one would assume that private school would form that, and maybe it depends on the character.
Well, I think it did a bit, but don't forget when you come out of private school and then you've been sixth form and then university, you've had that full spectrum. Where I wasn't turfed out of school. My parents decided to take me out after my GCSEs.
Couldn't afford the smoking fines anymore.
Couldn't afford the smoking fines. Probably couldn't afford the fees either. But it was, I think it was. I think just when you've been a rebellious child. I remember going to agricultural college and, actually being able to smoke on your break at college. I was like, this can't be right. But I remember Lyndon Hughes. You always remember a good teacher, actually. And Lyndon Hughes, who's dead now, actually, he was the tutor of that rural studies course I went on. And he was a real a real confidant. He gave you lots of, praising you for things you've done. And I think where you've only been sort of chastised for how you've behaved, suddenly when you've got someone saying to you, that's really good, suddenly you perk up and listen to it. And then actually that gives you confidence to then go, oh, I really like this.
Is that a real thing for you now then? Do you like to be praised? I mean, everyone does, but...
I think no matter who you are, everybody likes to know when they've done a good job. And I think when you've done a good job and nobody says anything, then I think that's bad. And I think when your children, Seb won his first goal, won his first game for a little while in football at the weekend, made some great saves, and you all celebrate that and tell them how well they did, and you got a great big hug, and the
that's
team.
That's so good you've learned from that, because you can either follow the way that you were brought up, or not brought up, but the way that you were influenced, or you can realise it and do the opposite.
I will always say to everybody they've done a good job when they've done a good job. But conversely, you've got to tell people as well when they've done a bad job, because people have got to learn from. So if someone's, and I think the team at Buckland and Welcome said they'll know that I say what I mean, because you can't hold back and expect someone to understand what you're saying when you're not saying it. Well, am I supposed to guess what you're saying? So I think you've got to tell people when they've done wrong and praise them when they've done it right. But when someone's done something wrong, you've got to show them how to do it right, and then if they get it wrong again, then it's a training issue, really. So, but it's giving people the confidence to thrive, I think, really, that they're confident in their own abilities, and actually you can put them in front of any person, whether or not they're Alan Sugar or whether they're your next door neighbour, and they can say to someone, and I love it when I go to the shop with my son. They go, he goes, oh, how are you? To the shopkeeper,
amazing.
Thanks. Yeah. Well, you look really nice. Yeah. And I think that confidence in life will get you everywhere, really, I think.
Absolutely. Right, so we're going to wrap up in a minute, but I want to ask you, what's the weirdest viewing that you've ever done?
Oh, I've done so many. I mean, bearing in mind, when I worked in Chandlersford, I went from leafy Chandlersford to inner city Southampton, working for GA, your move then, in their London Road office. I have caught many people naked in bed having sex, people on the toilet, people shooting up drugs. I mean, it has been a real full-on. You see everything as an.
So, did you learn to check it out before you bring the people having a viewing in?
Well, you have to sort of okay. Come back in a minute. And obviously I've heard some horror stories from what some estate agents have done, but I think that's probably one for another. Very good.
Okay, so to wrap things up, if it all went south in, I don't know, something happened, you lost it all today. What would you do tomorrow? What would be the first thing that you would do tomorrow?
First thing I'd do tomorrow? I'd probably have a bit of a lie-in. But I mean, I think we covered this a little bit before. When you sort of, if you lost everything, isn't it? I think it's including my family and everything.
So like in your working life, let's say, make it. So let's say you lost the job.
Yeah.
What would you do? What would be the first step that you would take tomorrow?
Well, I think I'd probably want to open a restaurant, a bar-straight restaurant. I've always fancied doing that with a sort of a nightclub attached, because I think you've got to be multi. I look at the Bermuda Triangle in Poole, which is a really decent boozer, and that's got a little mini club upstairs. It's got a proper boozer downstairs with bands. It's got a great outside. It's now doing food, and they're doing a really decent amount per year. So I think you've got to. That's what I'd love to do, like I said, bar, club, restaurant, all in the same sort of venue.
So that's interesting, because I was expecting you to say something like, I'd pick up the phone to an old mate and get a job as an estate agent, but it's totally out of sector.
Yeah,
so
I think I mean,
a change.
Because if you've lost everything and you've got to start again, you've got nothing to lose by doing it. And I think, right, well, we might as well go and do a completely different venture. And I think obviously if that didn't work, then of course, you could come back to property. But property pays well. That's the key thing. If you do well in property, and I'd say that to anybody who's watching this, that is thinking about becoming an estate agent, be confident and make sure you can talk to people as your equal, I think, really.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, George, it's been amazing to watch your journey.
Thank you for getting me on. Yeah, no, and,
pleasure. Thank you. Thanks for being so open. I'm really interested to see Welborne grow from my M27 route.
It's going to be mega, and I'm just very proud to be working on such an amazing project. Really, it's been life changing.
I bet. There's not many jobs like that, are there?
No. I'm very lucky to get that job actually. But hard work pays off, and you create your own luck, I think.
Amazing. Good for you. Well, you certainly worked hard. So.
Yeah, thank you. All right, mate.
Good man.
Lovely.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
lot.
Thank you for watching the In Property Podcast. Tune in for the next episode.